welcome to another show. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about propositional tyranny, demoralization, the incremental process of gang stalking, and how to reset this stuff. We're going to talk about all of it, emotional manipulation. But you're not just an average citizen. You're not just worried about keeping your boss happy, about saving money on your commute to work, which route to take, about mixing green leafy vegetables in with your diet, about switching from soda to water. All those things are good, but your life is a lot more complex. Okay? You're a targeted individual. You're being hardened. You're being conditioned. Okay? And if you're watching this show, you're probably worried about a lot more than just cars with one headlight. Okay? Or people wearing red shirts. It's real. It's in your face. And it's demoralizing. You've become a multitasker. I've never been good at that, man. I hate that. I hate a million things going at once. I don't know. I had to give up caffeine, and it even makes it worse. But targeted individuals have to do with it. It's like that old book they used to talk about. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right? And I think the example that I remember, if I'm not mistaken, was that women they can handle the multitask a lot different than most men, and of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. Okay. I think it was like, you can be driving down the highway with the stereo blaring, the kids are screaming, and they're studying a map, figuring out the best route to take. And women can do that. They're good at, caretaking children because of that. And men can be distracted. They turn the radio down, trying to think, do this, quit moving around so much. You're driving me nuts. I can't do all this at once. And that sounds like me. I like things quiet. I like things orderly. And I don't like a lot of chaos. But, as a targeted individual, you have to become acclimated to the chaos of living the life of a targeted individual. And not only is it a method of demoralization, it is a subtle form of gaslighting because these things move into the target's life incrementally. And I've talked about the fact that after a long duration of time, usually the targeted individual can kind of start to be distracted in a way where they forget how they got where they are, and they start buying into all these accusations that come along with this stuff. Or maybe I am an angry person. Oh, I don't know. I'm just not as patient as I used to be. And well, no, that's nothing to do with it. You're being driven insane. Okay? You're being driven nuts. It's death by 1,000 cuts. It's an incremental process. Okay? Targeted individuals have to worry about all this weird stuff. You have to worry about people tampering with your food, tampering with your mail, breaking into your house, stalling tactics, street theater, gaslighting, workplace harassment, V2K, the list goes on, and you're getting a constant barrage, and sometimes it backs off, and sometimes it just clusters together. Okay, it's a process of addition and subtraction and multiplication. And it's done with scientific precision. It seems random, okay? When you're dealing with it, when you're in the middle of this whole scenario that you're dealing with, it seems chaotic, okay? You're trying to figure it out. And that's one of the reasons why I make these videos. If you're a new targeted individual, this stuff switches up, purposefully, okay? If you're getting hit really hard and then all of a sudden it just stops, it wasn't because they ran out of money. It wasn't because they got confused or you stifled them or that it's planned that way. Okay. They do that. Now, every now and again, you can trip them up a little bit. I'm not saying you can't, but for the most part, it is done scientifically and it goes to gaslighting. Okay. It goes into a lot of areas because, some people are being experimented on and they're testing you out, seeing how you're going to react, but all this stuff is pretty predictable. It's like the traumatic invasion into your mind. When you're attacked, you're going to form associations and you're going to become apprehensive, and all these things are going to happen to you to where you become paranoid, and then you become isolated, and then you start to become dysfunctional, And everything just has a type of snowball effect. It's all a chain reaction. And once you look at it that way, you can see that it's kind of predictable. And when you see these things moving around in your world and in your life, all these little, games of addition, subtraction, and multiplication, you can see what they want, right? They want to manipulate you, then they want to back off and make you wonder if you're nuts or whatever, see how you're going to react to the trauma, and they're going to feed off the situation and stomp around you and be powerful. And for new targets, it's worse. Okay, I remember when this whole thing started for me. It was horrifying. I didn't know what was going on, and it just seemed like I was the only one that didn't know what was going on. I was the only one in the dark. Everybody else seemed to be in on the whole thing. And that's the effect that you get from this. It's like the targeted individual is the odd person out, and everybody else has all this intimate knowledge of your life. You don't know how it works. You don't know if people have put cameras in your house or in your bathroom or what's going on, or whether they can read your mind or what's, and you don't understand it. Okay, but it's everywhere, and you got to deal with it. And a lot of times they just do. They'll feed on that. They'll stomp around the target and act like they're God. They'll masquerade, and they really get off on that. And that's one of the other reasons why I make these videos. I want to help people, but I also want to ruin their fun. They really like that. They love new targets, and the last thing they want is for me to expose their secrets, to expose their techniques. It really makes it hard for them. And if you're a new targeted individual, watch all the videos that I've made, and don't be mesmerized by this stuff. Don't believe the lies. A lot of these things are illusions, and it takes time to figure this stuff out. Not all targets make it. Okay, some of them, well, bad things happen. Sometimes people only last for a couple of years. They don't even make it to the 5-year mark. You know. It's sad, but it's true, and you can see why. This stuff is beyond. Okay, when targets are dealing with this stuff, it's like 4 Stephen King movies combined. That's how I would describe it. That's kind of what I feel like. That's the life that I feel like I'm living. It's not just one horror movie. It's multiple ones blended together. And then of course you have the surreal aspect that you just kind of come out of it every now and again. And you're sitting there on the beach like Mike Ensela in the movie 1408, wondering if this whole thing was just a nightmare. Maybe it's just over. Maybe you just needed to wake up. Targeted individuals deal with that. Maybe they just got their pound of flesh and decided to go away. I don't know. I've seen it stop for a while. But at any rate, it's like living in a horror movie. You do have that surreal break every now and again, but it's calculated. It's not just random. They use it for gaslighting, and of course to observe the target to see how they're reacting to all this harassment and extracurricular activity that they are dealing with, whether they're still able to function, whether their head is still screwed on. And I know a lot of you out there are warriors, and it makes me wonder that some of the people are picked for this just because of their resilience. I don't know a whole lot of people who could deal with this stuff. I mean, you hear people complaining, maybe at work or just when you're out and about. Yeah, I got to deal with this and I got to deal with that, and it's like, whoopee-doo. And it's tempting as someone who experienced group harassment to say, well, you think you got problems, and then go down the litany of dilemmas that you're dealing with. But you don't want to get baited into that. But it doesn't work that way. But I do. I wonder if some of you guys were selected because they knew that you were going to provide, a long-term scenario for them. Imagine if deer just became tame all of a sudden. How many people would still go out and hunt? Right. There'd be no need for camouflage and rattling the deer in with the lures or anything like shooting your neighbor's dog.
Well, I don't know if I want to shoot him anymore, Pa.
Oh, come on now, Billy. We've been hunters for hundreds of years. You just wait till he starts running after one of them does. Pretend like you're chasing him.
I mean, none of the people involved in this stuff, depending on what you're dealing with, are really, signing up for it. We're not willing to do this. It's not like it's on our bucket list or something. It's forced upon you. But I don't know. I wonder about that. But that's not the only equation involved in this. Okay. Yeah, targets are profiled. They're sized up. There's a format and a pattern, a little modus operandi. To this whole thing. They can switch it up depending on who the target is, what they're trying to accomplish, or whatever. And don't be confused. I'm not deviating from the spiritual explanation either, because that's really what it comes down to: manipulation. But the accumulation is really where all the manipulation is. Okay, it all has reciprocity. It's incremental. Like I said earlier, you're going to get the harassment at work, and then you're going to get the harassment on your commute, and then you're going to get the dilemma over here and the dilemma over there. And once the target is worked up into a frenzy, they're moldable. Okay, they can be messed with, they can be formed, they can be critiqued. Okay, they can be gaslighted, and it all depends upon accumulation. Okay, because it does. I mean, you cannot have that sense of injustice that boils up in the target's life without an accumulative effect. Okay, and there's a way that all this stuff works. There is a form of communication that is taking place in the life of all human beings. Okay, not only do we have instincts, but we see with our eyes, we hear with our ears, we process the information, and it's stored in our biological CPU, a compilement of data. And our lives are like that. We're a product of accumulation, and knowledge is accumulative. It is organized, and we form propositions, and little paradigms come forth, and we have our little personality and our presuppositions. And there's a time that those things have to be questioned. There is a time where we have to step back and reset, okay? Because that process can be a hindrance, okay? That accumulation can turn into something that is like propositional tyranny. And that's really the process of gangstalking. Okay, that's what they want. By barraging the targeted individual, by controlling the input, they will force upon their victim their propositional tyranny, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the hijacked equation that the target is subjected to. And really the only escape is to see that process, okay? It's short-circuited, right? You have to see the map that you have as an instinctual creature created by God. You also have to see the map that you have been compiling throughout your life and how it differs and how they are using that against you, okay, because they are. And then, of course, you have to know that the chain reaction is being used to put you on a trajectory. Okay, it's a forced momentum. It's like when targets get attacked, they become paranoid. Right? That's the reaction. That's the equal and opposite effect of being attacked. Okay, you're apprehensive. You're paranoid. Then what happens? What's the inevitable chain reaction? You're going to be isolated. And then what's going to happen? Well, a lot of things can happen, but it goes exponentially. Okay. And, some of those things are inevitable. I'm not saying that, just because that they want you to be paranoid that you can stop that from happening. That's not my point. Okay. My point isn't that, well, now that you've been attacked by a bunch of people, you're not going to be able to hang out. You're going to be isolated. Well, you can't stop a lot of these things. That's not what I'm saying. But the mental propositions, okay, is what I'm getting at. And every 24-hour period, technically, even though you are living in the residual funk of all these things that are happening, they do not have to affect you the way that they want them to. Okay, so even though it's a reality that you've been attacked, it's a reality that you might be dealing with workplace harassment, or being persecuted by people in your own family, or dealing with this or dealing with that, and there are restrictions in your life and there are hindrances, and those are real. But you have to see that the goal is to affect you in a certain way to get you on a trajectory. It's kind of like when an addict becomes addicted to a drug, okay? They start out, they're just kind of playing around with it, and then they like it or whatever, and then it becomes part of their social life. It becomes part of their daily routine. And then they start to experience negative effects, but they can't stop, and then they get thrown in jail, and they start stealing stuff, and they become dysfunctional, and then finally they have to get thrown into jail, or they have to commit themselves into a treatment center or something because they're on that crazy train, right? And the only way it's going to stop is either it's going to crash or somebody's got to shut it off. Okay, and this is similar because the whole mechanism that is used to manipulate targeted individuals to drive them into a place is an accumulative process when they control the stimuli. Okay, and they want to force you onto a trajectory. We'll use the example of Myron May. Okay, he was harassed. Pretty soon he became frustrated. He became angry, and then he lashed out, and there were other things going on. But it was a chain reaction, and you can't let it happen. Okay, you have to know that there is a chain of events. There's an accumulation. There is a motive. There is a trajectory that they want you to be on, and you have to reset. Okay, you have to short circuit this process. You have to be aware of what's going on. You have to process the information correctly, and then you have to reset the whole scenario. You cannot live in the funk of yesterday. You cannot live in this little chain reaction that they are creating. There's things you have to do. Okay, you can't deny the reality of what you're dealing with. Like I've said before, you've been harassed, you've been attacked. Okay, you're dealing with workplace harassment. You have financial issues. There's things that you have to deal with. Okay, but that's the reciprocity that they want to use, and you have to short circuit it. And every day when you get up, it's just like the Bible says. Every day God's grace is new. His mercies are brand new every morning. Okay, and your day needs to be brand new. Okay, you know what's happening. You know you're a targeted individual. You know you're being harassed. You know they want to manipulate you. You know they want to use that process of accumulation. You know they've hijacked the equation around you, and the whole thing is illegitimate. And you have to know that. You have to process the information for what it is, and you cannot let it take hold of you. It's like that little Etch-a-Sketch that everybody used to have. You would be drawing a little picture on it, and then when you were done, you'd just shake the thing, and it would all be erased. Okay, and that's what you have to do. What they're doing to you. Okay, you have to short circuit this process, and you have to focus in on the manipulation aspect of the whole thing, because, like I said, there are things that are unavoidable, okay? But the emotional aspect is where you have to focus, because that's where you really get into trouble. Okay, that's what happens to me. I'm just maybe it's just me. Okay, and I'm not talking about people who become deluded and start believing lies, and some of the complex gaslighting that goes on for targeted individuals, where they're being sensitized by stuff online, and they start believing this, that, or the other, and then they end up blowing up an RV on Christmas morning in downtown Nashville because they want to stop the reptilian invasion. Okay, that stuff has some legitimate origins, but they're not from Zeta Reticuli, and it's not what most people believe. It actually has angelic origins to it. But getting back to the point, that's not what I'm talking about. The emotional manipulation is where you have to focus on, because they're not going to be able to push you around unless they get you worried about something, or angry about something, or hyper, or whatever. They get you hoping in something like, and I've talked about that, and it's okay for targeted individuals to get excited about a lawsuit or the fact that the government is illegally spying on people, and maybe there's hope or whatever. But you have to be realistic, okay? And you have to look at things correctly, because the boldness that comes out of some of the information, and I talked about that in the last video or the last couple videos, where targets believe that now they can just start telling everybody about this because somebody made a video about neural monitoring, or there's somebody who's going to start a lawsuit against the government, and now they're the neighbors that have been harassing them, they're going to go tell them there's a lawsuit coming, and you're setting yourself up, man. Okay, be realistic. It's okay to have hope, because you never know, maybe something is going to happen, but don't get too excited about anything. Okay, don't become emotional. Don't there's a lot of hype, and you got to be careful of that. And targets are being moved around, and that emotional manipulation is at the foundation of all this stuff. Okay, and it happens to me all the time, and I have to remember that when I'm becoming emotional, depressed, anxious, fearful, angry, whatever, that's the whole goal. Okay, fundamentally, at the root, at the foundation of this, all these things that are happening to me, whether people are harassing me or stealing my mail or whatever is going on, that it's just another dilemma. Okay, it's another problem for me to start grinding metal about and become emotional about. Something for you to worry about. It's there like a little locust to suck the life out of you, man. To destroy your peace. And it's pretty hard to live a productive life when you're in turmoil. Okay, and I would have to say that it's damn near impossible, at least to function at your best.
That's where prayer fits into this. You're going to need supernatural intervention. But concerning your responsibility,
You want to try to prevent that escalation, because that's at the foundation of this manipulation. And of course, it does have reciprocity to it, because if you get pushed into a chain reaction, then what's going to happen? If it happens on Monday, what's Wednesday going to be like? And if it keeps going, are you going to make it to Friday? Right? You see how that works? And it's incremental. And, one day turns into a week, and a week turns into a month. And then, 2-3 years down the road, what are you going to be like? Right? That's that incremental process. And they know it. They know it when they started out. The first time you were harassed, the first time somebody broke into your house or yanked your chain at work or whatever, they weren't thinking about what you were going to do on Friday necessarily. They're like, okay, this is where we're going to take them, and in 2 years, this is where we're going to be. They've got a plan. It'd be like writing a mystery novel. And instead of starting out the story, I don't know, I think I'm going to make it about two characters who have a garden. And no, you start out with the ending, right? This is going to be the end, and this is going to be the real freaky little thing. And then I'm going to build up to it, right? And it's going to seem ironic. It's like gaslighting all the people that read your book, okay? Now that's the way gang stalking works, okay? They know where they want to take you. They know what they want to do. And when you see these little incremental things happening to you, you have to remember that. Okay, it's not just someone that you're dealing with, maybe at the post office or wherever you are, getting harassed at work or whatever. There is a bigger picture involved, and if you just keep resetting it every day and following protocols and trying to stay consistent, because they're going to try and tear you away from all the things that you're accomplishing. They want to tear you down. They want to completely erode and destroy everything in your life, and get you into a place where you're completely dysfunctional or gaslighted or something, okay? Because that's what happens. And if you don't have protocols, if you don't reset this stuff, if you don't avoid being emotional, if you can't see what they're trying to do, like I said, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, man, who knows what they're going to accomplish in your life? You can't let that happen. And instead of focusing on things that you don't have any control over, focus on things that you can do something about, right? Control as much of your environment as possible. Study, gain knowledge, work on future employment opportunities or whatever. You work on your health, right? They're going to try and tear all those things down. Exercise, so on and so forth. And just kind of focus on those things. And there are things that you need to do every day. Make it as simple as possible. They want to try and make your life complex with all these ordeals, all this accumulation, all these things that you're dealing with. But you want to simplify things. Okay, rather than become emotional, you have to remember they're just trying to distract you, because if you get off course, then they can affect tomorrow. And if they can affect tomorrow, they can affect next week, and so on and so forth. It accumulates. Okay, it's like workplace harassment. You're not there to be friends and buddy with everybody. If that doesn't work, fine. You're there for a paycheck. Okay, keep your goal in mind.
The other important aspect of this that you can't forget, and I talked about it earlier, it's not like someone asked you to sign up for this little game that you're playing. It's without your permission. You are subject to the tyranny of it, and there's only so much you can do. Okay, you have to remember that it's a reality. It's not that you become everyone's doormat. Okay, it's not that you just let everything oppress you and that you're just here for the abuse. But there is a reality to this, that you are subject to this. And there's really, realistically, only so much you can do. And if you're trying to solve this, or you're trying to figure out a solution, like I said, man, the solution is going to come incrementally, just like the process of gang stalking is incremental. Okay. And when people get focused on a quick solution or whatever, they end up like Myron May, or they end up like someone else who goes on a mass shooting or freaks out or becomes emotional, and it's just not realistic. Okay, you have to be realistic. This is a very complex scientific situation that you're in. It is. It seems random. It seems chaotic. People are rude. They're abusive. You're subject to a lot of different characters, and it just seems, like you're in chaos. But there's a plan. There's a motive, and it's an incremental scenario. Okay, and when you let things accumulate and you don't look at the bigger picture, you become a victim to this. Okay, when you try to find a quick solution, you are becoming a victim of the tyranny, of the propositional tyranny that is incrementally coming at you. There are going to be things that you're pushed into. There are going to be things that are unavoidable, cause and effect. Okay, you cannot beat yourself up over it. You cannot be gaslighted over this thing. And you have to remember that, being subjected to this tyrannical scenario, that how much significance is there in a situation where someone is being attacked, they're being oppressed, and now they're scared? Okay, is that significant? Is that something that you need to be ashamed about? No, that's natural. Okay. That's the other aspect of this little psychological nightmare, is that they're going to use perfectly normal, natural reactions, because all this activity is obfuscated. Oh, look, they're paranoid. Oh, look, they're dysfunctional. You're crazy. Well, no, the truth has been obfuscated, and you're just reacting naturally to this stuff. Don't get put in that place where the accusations start bothering you, or you start to internalize this stuff. Don't buy into the gaslighting. Don't buy into the accusations, because that's just another way to get you emotional, right? Oh, look, all these people think I'm nuts, and that's supposed to bother you. Okay, just let it go. Eventually, people are going to find out what's happening. This activity is not going to be obfuscated or hidden forever. Okay, right now it's frustrating. People don't know what you're dealing with. They have no idea all the things that you've got on your plate, and it's frustrating for you. They don't understand, but that's only temporary. Okay, you have to remember that's a temporary reality for you right now. All these things that you're dealing with are temporary. Okay, later people are going to be like, "Wow, how did you put up with that?" I mean, when God reveals all these things, you're going to want to hear your story. I mean, I think about that. I speculate as to what that's going to be like. Okay, because I don't think our minds are just going to be wiped. I don't think we're all going to just be given amnesia or something like that. I think that your testimony is important, and you've been through a lot, and it's not going to go to waste. Okay, these things are not going to remain hidden. That is used to manipulate you, and it is frustrating to think, wow, all these people, they just don't know what I'm dealing with, and it's shameful, it's embarrassing. I just look like a loser and a failure. Well, no, that's temporary. Okay.
Well, hopefully this video has helped someone out. You are dealing with an incremental scenario. You are dealing with accumulation to propositional tyranny, the demoralization, the emotional manipulation, and you have to reset it. You have to start over brand new every day. You want to realize that it's there to manipulate you. Don't be manipulated. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.